This is inner motion, a channel for the ones who disappeared to rebuild, for the ones who vanish, not to escape, but to evolve. If you've been moving in silence, training when no one sees, grinding when no one believes, then you're one of us. They told you loneliness is a weakness, that needing no one makes you cold, that isolation is a sign you're broken. But they lied. What they call loneliness is actually the beginning of transformation. Because when the noise disappears, when the people fade, when the distractions go quiet, you're finally left with the one person who decides your future. You. This isn't suffering. This is sharpening. When there's no one to validate you, you build your own confidence. When no one checks in, you become your own anchor. When no one believes in you, you start believing in yourself, out of survival. And that's where the power begins. See, most people will do anything to avoid being alone. They jump from relationship to relationship, friend group to friend group, anything to never face the silence, because silence reveals the truth. It shows them who they really are. And most people aren't ready for that, but you are, because you understand something they don't. Loneliness isn't a punishment, it's preparation. It's the phase where boys become men, where men become warriors, where warriors become legends, because in that stillness, you hear every lie you used to believe, every weakness you tried to ignore, every truth you were too afraid to face, and one by one you confront them, not with tears, but with fire, not with fear, but with obsession, because when there's nothing to distract you, you finally focus. When there's no one to impress, you finally get real. When there's no applause, you finally build in silence. This is the power of isolation. This is where the weak run and the strong rise. You used to need their attention, their approval, their compliments, their applause. You used to chase validation like it was oxygen, but not anymore, because solitude forced a detox. No more fake friendships built on flattery. No more pretending to be something you're not, just to be liked. No more bending just to fit into a world that doesn't even know itself. You stopped asking for permission to be who you are. You stopped auditioning for acceptance. You stopped explaining your worth, because isolation doesn't just remove people, it removes the addiction to being seen. And that's where your power starts stacking. You learn to move without clout. You learn to grind without likes. You learn to evolve without applause. And slowly, the opinions of others become background noise. The likes become meaningless. The silence becomes sacred. That's the detox. The withdrawal from needing anyone to tell you you're enough. Because now you tell yourself, and when you finally stop looking outward for validation, you begin to build something inward, something permanent, something unshakable. Confidence, not built on compliments. Identity not shaped by attention. Discipline, not driven by dopamine. This is when you become dangerous, because the man who no longer needs to be seen becomes the one who sees everything. Solitude isn't quiet, it's loud with purpose. When the world stops distracting you, you start hearing your obsession whisper. It wakes you up before the sun. It keeps you grinding long after everyone else sleeps. It burns through boredom. It silences excuses. You stop asking, what if I fail? And start asking, what if I never try? Because obsession doesn't care about balance. It doesn't want comfort. It doesn't crave weekends or validation. It wants one thing, mastery. And when you're alone, when no one's texting you, when no one's watching, that's when obsession sharpens its teeth. It feeds off your hunger, your discipline, your decision to focus. It devours distractions. It thrives in isolation. Most people can't handle it. They call it unhealthy. They say you're too intense. They say you've changed. Good. You're supposed to. Let them talk while you work. Let them chill while you burn. Because obsession makes you build when others are scrolling. It makes you study when others are sleeping. It makes you push when others plateau. And it doesn't stop until you're undeniable. That's why isolation is preparation. Because when no one else believes in you, your obsession will. And that's enough. You don't need support. You need obsession. And solitude is where you feed it. Silence doesn't mean weakness. It means you've stopped explaining yourself. You've stopped proving your worth. Stopped asking for understanding. stopped chasing connection because you realized not everyone deserves access to your energy. This is where masculine stoicism is born. Not in rage, not in words, but in restraint. You feel everything, but you show nothing. Not because you're numb, but because you're focused. There's power in not reacting, in letting the noise pass while you stay grounded, in letting the chaos scream while you stay calm. That's what makes you different. While others seek attention, you train. In the dark, while others speak loudly, you build quietly. It's not about bottling emotions. It's about owning them, processing them, then moving forward without breaking rhythm. You are not your pain. You are not your impulses. You are not the chaos around you. You are the stillness beneath it all. And in a world where men are taught to perform, to posture, to pretend, you become unstoppable the moment you don't need to anymore. The moment you realize your peace is more powerful than their approval, that your silence is louder than their opinions, that your path is yours and no one else's to validate. Masculine stoicism is this: you walk alone, not because you have to, but because you choose to. And every step in solitude makes you more unshakable. You disappeared, and they thought you were done, thought you fell off, thought you lost. But you weren't breaking. You were rebuilding. You weren't hiding. You were sharpening. Because real transformation doesn't make noise. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't beg to be seen. It happens in silence, in the background, in the hours nobody talks about. You stopped posting, stopped updating, stopped showing up for people who never showed up for you. You didn't explain. You didn't justify. You just vanished. And in that disappearance, you faced what most people run from: your demons, your patterns, your past. You bled in silence. You broke quietly. You rebuilt methodically. No handouts, no applause, no shortcuts. You learned discipline. You became obsessed. You built structure where there was chaos. You built a future where there was only noise. And now you return, not as the same man, not with the same wounds, not with the same story. Walk back into the world with a new posture, a new standard, a new frequency. And suddenly, they don't recognize you. The people who used to drain you, they don't know how to approach you. The places that used to distract you, they don't feel the same. The habits that used to numb you, they hold no power. Because you're not the same. You died in the dark and resurrected as someone unshakable. This is resurrection, not the return of the old you, but the rise of who you were meant to become. You want to know what makes a man unstoppable? It's not rage. It's not revenge. It's not shouting louder than the world. It's emotional control. It's the ability to feel everything but act on nothing. To sit in the storm and remain unmoved. Masculine stoicism isn't about pretending nothing hurts. It's about not letting pain make your decisions. You were angry. You still moved with discipline. You were heartbroken. You still trained. You were tired. You still kept your word. That's stoicism. You didn't post about your pain. You didn't vent for validation. You just carried it and turned it into strength. Because a man's greatest power is not in what he reacts to. It's in what he lets pass. And silence. That's not weakness. That's restraint. That's strategy. Most men break because they think the world owes them empathy. They want someone to save them, hold them, see them. But that craving for comfort is what keeps them soft. You didn't need to be seen. You needed to become solid. Solid enough to stand alone, to suffer in private, to lead yourself. This is what they don't teach you. Mastering yourself is more important than being understood. Your ability to stay grounded while the world burns. That's what makes you dangerous. The man who cannot be rattled, the man who doesn't seek pity, the man who shows no weakness even when he bleeds. He becomes legend. He becomes untouchable. Because while others seek safety and sympathy, you found power in silence. There will come a day when you step back into the world and nobody recognizes you. Not because you've changed your clothes or got a new haircut, but because your spirit isn't the same. You're no longer trying to prove yourself. You're no longer chasing cheap approval. You walk different, talk less, Move with purpose, because in your solitude, something died. The version of you that begged to be seen, that craved affection from the wrong people, that feared being alone, that version is gone. Buried in silence, left behind in the void, and in its place, a man who doesn't chase, a man who chooses. You see, resurrection doesn't mean going back to who you were. It means becoming who you were always meant to be. Not softer, not safer, but sharper, more precise, more ruthless with your energy, and more loyal to your mission than ever before. You don't return with open arms. You return with a boundary, with a standard, with a presence so strong it repels the weak. Because now you know, not everyone deserves access. Not everyone deserves explanation. Not everyone gets a seat at your table. You spent too long bleeding for people who didn't care if you healed. Now you move differently, because now you understand your energy is sacred. Your vision is non-negotiable. Your peace is the real flex. So when they see you again, when they try to pick up where they left off, they'll realize the truth. You didn't just go quiet. You didn't just disappear. You died and came back new. They'll ask you why you don't talk much anymore, why you seem so distant, why you don't react the way you used to, but you won't explain, because you don't need to, because they wouldn't understand. This isn't numbness. This isn't coldness. This is control, emotional discipline, mental stillness, the quiet power of masculine stoicism. See, the world tells men to open up, to cry on command, to be vulnerable with people who haven't earned your truth. But here's what they don't tell you. Vulnerability without discernment is self-sabotage. You used to spill your soul to anyone who'd listen, hoping they'd understand, hoping they'd care. But all it did was make you feel more exposed, more misunderstood, more alone. Now you talk less, because you've learned that silence protects more than words ever could. You feel things deeply, but you no longer let those feelings steer the wheel. You process them in private. You channel them into progress. You turn pain into precision. That's masculine stoicism. It's not about being emotionless. It's about being unshakable. It's about facing chaos with calm, not because you're suppressing what you feel, but because you're mastering it. You cry, but only in battle. You break, but only in silence. And when you rise again, you do it without making noise. This is not performative strength. It's not a mask. It's the result of having faced the abyss and chosen discipline over despair. Because real men don't need to be loud. They don't need to prove their power. They become the storm, quiet, calculated, inevitable. And that calm, that stillness, it's not emptiness. It's restraint. It's focus. It's fire with direction. Let the world keep guessing. Let them wonder what changed. Let them think you've gone soft. You're not soft. You're solid. You're steel. And when it's time to move, to strike, to speak, they'll feel it. Because the quiet ones are the ones who never waste their breath. There will come a day, after all the solitude, after all the discipline, after the long nights, with no applause, no comfort, no confirmation, just you, the silence, and the work. There will come a day when you rise and you won't recognize yourself, because the man you used to be, the one who needed validation, who craved attention, who chased distractions just to feel something, he's gone. You buried him in the silence. You burned him in the fire of obsession. You starved him of attention until he withered and died. And in his place, a different breed emerged. This version of you doesn't beg, doesn't explain, doesn't wait for permission. He moves with certainty. He walks with presence. He speaks only when necessary, because he doesn't speak to be heard. He speaks to be felt. Resurrection is not about coming back. It's about coming back different, upgraded, refined, unshakable. The pain didn't break you. It forged you. The loneliness didn't weaken you. It focused you. The discipline didn't cage you. It freed you. And when you step back into the world won't know how to receive you. They'll call you cold, arrogant, detached. Let them. Because you didn't do this to be liked. You did this to be legendary. You'll walk into rooms like a ghost they thought they forgot. But you're not a ghost anymore. You're a presence, a force, a reminder of what happens when a man chooses silence over comfort, obsession over distractions, self-mastery over social approval. You resurrected, not to return to the same life, but to build a new one where your energy is sacred, your peace is guarded, your purpose is king. No more leaking energy into people who don't grow. No more pouring into broken connections, hoping they heal. No more watering dead roots. You are the tree now, rooted, grounded, reaching higher every day. This is resurrection, not a moment, but a season. Not a comeback, but a transformation. You didn't go ghost to hide. You went ghost to rise. Now, let them talk, let them wonder. Let them whisper your name with confusion in their voice. You don't need to respond. Your life is the answer. You are reborn, and this time, you're not asking for anything. You're taking it all. This is inner motion, a channel for the ones who disappear to rebuild. For the ones who vanish, not to escape, but to evolve. If you've been moving in silence, training when no one sees, grinding when no one believes, then you're one of us. This isn't just motivation. This is a movement, a resurrection, a new era, built on silence, obsession, and masculine discipline. So, if you're done chasing, done begging, done explaining, if you're ready to turn your loneliness into power, to walk the hard path, to choose obsession over distraction, to let the world underestimate you and use that as fuel, then you're in the right place. Subscribe, lock in, cut the noise, and become the version of you they'll never recover from. Because loneliness, it's not a curse. It's the preparation for greatness. Welcome home.